and in different set of patients, difficult airway. And now we'll hear about elective extubation. What are the tips and tricks? How many of you believe intubation is as equally important as extubation? Yes. So it's very important because once intubation is difficult, similarly the extubation also will be very difficult, especially in difficult airway situations. So what do you mean by extubation? Extubation is the removal of the endotracheal tube, which is the final step in liberating the patient from ventilator. So basically, whenever you want to extubate a patient, you have to review the assessment for readiness of weaning and management before and after extubating the patient. All patients who are on mechanical ventilation should be liberated as soon as possible if the patient is ready, because it per se decreases the patient ICU morbidity and mortality. And definitely we should have a plan for extubation from the day one of intubation of the patient. So now coming to assessing the readiness for liberation from mechanical ventilator. How do you assess a patient that is fit enough to be liberated from mechanical ventilation? So there are objective parameters and clinical parameters. The first and foremost important thing is that the underlying cause should be treated. Suppose the patient has been intubated for some acute respiratory failure, you are suspecting some pneumonia. So the underlying pneumonia part should be resolved. That is the first criteria. And there are other ventilated parameters based on which we will decide whether to go ahead with extubation or not. That is PF ratio, it should be more than 200. The FiO2 requirement should be less than 0.4. Similarly, the PEEP requirement should be less than 8 or 10. And rapid shallow breathing index should be less than 105. Similarly, there is maximum inspiratory pressure which is expected to be more than 20 centimeters of water if you want to extubate a patient. So there are various parameters that are based on the ventilatory parameters, patient neuromuscular strength, whether he is able to generate adequate tidal volumes and maintain normal respiratory rate after extubating the patient. Similarly, there are other clinical observations, like the respiratory rate should be less than 30 when the patient is on ventilator. There should not be usage of accessory muscles when we are trying a spontaneous breathing trial. And there are many indices like CROP index, core index and weaning index. Basically, these indexes take into consideration the dynamic compliance and the patient arterial oxygen saturations, alveolar oxygen saturations, patient respiratory rate. So based on these parameters, there are some numbers based on which we can assess to some extent that this patient can be extubated or not. Similarly, the occlusion pressure, that is, it indicates the patient central respiratory drive. Suppose if the occlusion pressure is more than 4 or 6 centimeters water, that means the patient central respiratory drive is quite high, which indicates that once you liberate this patient from ventilator, there are high chances that he may again reintubated. So in nutshell, all these several weaning parameters are only useful when we correlate with the clinical parameters. That is, patient is fully conscious, you have a good cough reflex, and his GCS is good. When we correlate with these things, then we can decide whether to go ahead with extubation or not. So as I already explained, whenever you want to extubate a patient, basically he should be able to maintain his airway. His airway should be patent, and he should have a good cough reflex, and there should not be too many endotracheal secretions or oral secretions. And there should not be any underlying myocardial ischemia ongoing. There should be a good cardiovascular stability should be there, and there should not be high requirement of vasopressors. With the minimal requirement of vasopressors, you can have a extubation trial, and there should not be any volume overload status like pulmonary edema, like that. Basically, patient should be conscious, responding. He should have a good GCS, ideally more than 8. His mental status should be good enough. He should be awake, alert, and he should be able to follow simple commands. In short, mnemonic-like move, what we call as mental status, oxygenation, ventilation, and expectorations. So now we have already assessed that this patient is ready for extubation. Then how to test whether this patient is really fit enough to be extubated or not? that thing we all know, that is spontaneous breathing trial. Basically, initiation of weaning trial commences at the time of the first spontaneous breathing trial. So there are different modalities how to go ahead with spontaneous breathing trials. There is a three-piece trial, pressure support ventilation, and a CPAP trial, and automatic tube compensation. And based on the duration, there is no difference in 30 minutes versus 60 minutes. If a patient tolerates spontaneous breathing trial for 30 minutes, that patient is well enough to be extubated. And how to assess the suitability for extubation. So whenever you are assessing the patient on spontaneous breathing trial, hemodynamics should be normal. There should not be any too much tachycardia or bradycardia. You should maintain good saturation levels. And clinically, the patient should not be in distress. You should not be using the axillary muscles when he is on spontaneous breathing trial. And once he passes the spontaneous breathing trial, and just before extubating, again you have to see all the things are appropriate or not, from top to bottom, like is Jesus is good or not, is whether he is able to maintain a patent airway, whether secretions are more or less. Similarly, and volume of thickness of respiratory secretions, everything should be ready. And whenever you are extubating a patient, you should always take into consideration that under what scenarios the patient has been intubated. Suppose if a patient is a difficult airway, and during intubation, there has been a lot of difficulty for intubating. Similarly, the patient should be anticipated difficulty in extubation also. So all equipment should be ready whenever you extubate such kind of patients. There is a weaning pathway which assesses basically the readiness for weaning and whether the patient is ready, breathing comfortably or not, and finally whether we can extubate or not based on different parameters like PF ratios and requirement of FiO2, is GCS levels, and rapid shallow breathing index. So now coming to the technique. So now we are ready that the patient can be extubated, and how we have to extubate. So there is appropriate technique to extubate. First of all, we have to keep all equipment ready. The nursing staff should be well informed. You should check the suction apparatus ready or not, and you should make the patient sitting position. And before extubating, you have to suction the ET tube and oral cavity thoroughly. And ideally we say during exhalation, we have to deflate the cuff and extubate, remove the endotracheal tube smoothly. And if an orogastric tube is there, we have to remove simultaneously also. And once we extubate the patient, immediately we have to connect the supplemental oxygen support, give nebulization, assess his mental status, assess his cuff reflex, and there should be a close observation post extubation also. So as we all know that once the patient is extubated, there should be a careful observation over the next few hours, because there are high chances that especially patients who are on borderline, that they may get reintubated also. So frequent airway suction to be considered, and the timing of extubation also to be noted. So now coming to the post-extubation management. Once we extubate the patient, there should be a lot of carefulness, at least for 24 hours, how the patient is responding. So ensure adequate oxygenation. The patient should maintain good oxygen levels with minimal support, especially in special set of patients like type 2 respiratory failure, morbidly obese patients with OSA, and COPD patients. We can give a BiPAP trial post extubation. There are many studies which have showed results that patients with obesity and OSA and obstructive sleep apnea with BiPAP support, the chance of reintubation are less, especially in COPD patients, patients with underlying congestive heart failure, and pulmonary edema patients. There should be regular monitoring of GCS. We should monitor vitals regularly, and adequate secretion management should be there. There should be a good physiotherapy there, and good cough reflex should be encouraged. If required, we should use adequate bronchodilators to prevent any bronchospasm. Encourage sitting up position. Mobility should mobilize as early as possible if patient is fit enough. We should, especially in feeding, at least for 4 to 6 hours, we keep NBM whenever we extubate a patient, And whenever you are initiating a feeding, we should assess is patency of the airway, is GCS, and in high-risk patients, better to go for Ryle's tube feeding. So now, what complications you can expect post-extubation? There are chances of patient getting reintubated, that is extubation failure. There every chance that patient GCS may drop. And thirdly, the patient might develop post-extubation stridor. So we should be careful enough with any patient after extubation. So extubation failure. When you expect extubation failure, patients, say for example, a patient is on ventilator for many days and is an elderly patient with a background cardiac problem and COPD patients, respiratory illnesses, and the difficult weaning patients, and you have extubated the patient. So these set of patients, there is always a chance that they may go into extubation failure. So we require close monitoring for such patients is required, and if at all possible, early usage of NIV and BiPAP is recommended, and HFNC also. So post-extubation stridor. Post-extubation stridor, usually it is not common. It is seen in less than 10% of patients. It correlates, it depends upon the whether how many days the patient on ventilator support, how was his airway at the time of intubation, and underlying, if any traumatic intubation was there. So these set of patients we can expect post-extubation stridor. So in these set of patients, we can give steroids to prevent the post-extubation stridor. And one important test is cuff leak test to whether to predict this patient goes into post-extubation stridor after or not. So how to do this cuff leak test? So basically, when the patient is on ventilator, we are doing a spontaneous breathing trial. We have to check the expiratory tidal volume when the cuff is inflated. And afterwards, you have to deflate the cuff and again recheck the expiratory tidal volume. If the leak is more than 150, then the less likely that patient might develop post-extubation stridor. So this is how the final conclusion. So management with ventilator liberation protocol is very much suggested. Whenever we want to extubate a patient, there should be a protocol actually, like assessing the readiness for weaning, when the patient is fit enough, then how to test, what parameters we have to take into consideration, what clinical parameters we have to take into consideration. So basically, there should be a protocolized based extubation strategy. If not, we'll land up in difficulty. Similarly, there should be a protocol post-extubation also, when to mobilize the patient, whether this patient requires intensive spirometry or not, good secretion management, all these things should be protocolized. Similarly, if you suspect laryngeal edema post-extubation, we should definitely do a cuff leak test and assess whether this patient is fit enough to be extubated or not, or whether we want to go ahead with percutaneous tracheostomy to prevent the risk of extubation failure and reintubation. So as already told, administration of systemic steroids will help in patients who might develop post-extubation respiratory failure. And at last, usage of checklist. Basically, most of the times we often don't do these things, but if you have a checklist at the time of extubation that these things are ready and that the patient is fit enough to be extubated, and post-extubation, these all things to be followed, it will be quite easy for the doctor as well as nursing staff to manage this set of patients. Thank you for your patient listening.